Hi class, this is the interactive comment for, it's the fifth interactive comment for week 9, and we are looking at land-grant colleges and state universities, the growth and standardization from the 1890s to World War One. So we're looking at what was left of our American higher education system after the Civil War. Our IC5 post or prompt is education is not guaranteed in the U.S. Bill of Rights. Instead, it is considered a privilege. As such, some people argue that the federal government should not be involved in any way in higher education. Others argue that federal and state governments have the responsibility to support higher education. How is this debate informed by history of governmental involvement? Well, I think we need to first look at our readings and see a little bit about the history. I think you can't go forward till you look at our past and see where we've been. One of the in chapter 7 of Geiger's text, we review, and it just kind of looks at how, in the beginning of the chapter, where the colleges are, how the Civil War has really changed the dynamics of the colleges. You're really looking at more diverse colleges with more diverse student bodies and their missions. And that was what was emerging by the late 1800s. Of course, the most significant breakthrough after the Civil War was during the period of the Civil War, from 1861 to 1865, was the Merrill Land Grant Act of 1862, which actually did not affect higher education or college education until after 1865. The dynamics of the college really changed after the war. All higher ed institutions were affected by the Civil War in some shape or form. Some, like Harvard, maybe not as much. But it did say in Geiger that it was affected in a small way. Other colleges, especially in the South, they were affected a lot more. So this kind of set up the foundation of the Merrill Act. So the act itself was the foundation came from Justin Smith Merrill, I'm not sure how we pronounce that. But the act basically was the federal government enticing states to set up the structure of their education system and the curriculum how the federal government wanted it set up. They enticed states by offering them 30,000 acres of federal land and agreeing for them to let the senator and Congress help and be used to establish and set up support for that prescribed curriculum. And the curriculum really looked at more agricultural, and that was more the background of Justin Smith Merrill. He was a big advocate for agriculture and really embedding this more into our higher ed system. And his background indeed was a blacksmith, so he was very close to this mission and this vision. So that was set up by the federal government. Of course, in this time, you have to remember, in the history, especially in the South, several colleges were suffering, and they were looking for help, basically. And so, of course, this enticing deal, they pounced on it, and they took it. So they took that dangled carrot. And so the ultimate control, again, was with the federal government. And this act and the curriculum, the broader curriculum that encompass the agriculture and more of the professional areas, they were the base. They highlighted and opened the door for a broader student body. So this really changed the look of higher education as well. And Justin Smith Merrill, his vision for this was for the colleges in each state to be more accessible to all, but especially to the sons of toil. So he really was the pioneer, so to speak, for accessibility and to really open the door for all students or all persons having an availability of an opportunity, having that opportunity of higher ed. So I think with saying all that, we can look now at the question. How is this debate informed by history of governmental involvement? If the federal government has its hands in everything, I think looking at the history, I don't think it's fair to say, well, we only need the federal government when we're in trouble, so we need money or we need help in whatever area, an endowment, but then at times say, no, we don't need you, get out of our business. So, it's kind of a catch-22. Yes, I think the federal government should have some kind of, absolutely they need some kind of involvement, and they will. It's just, I think the question is, how much control should the federal government have? It's not if they will, it's how much can they or should they be able to. And I still don't think education is guaranteed in the U.S. as much as the vision, a holistic view, is that we would like that to happen. We're not quite there yet. And the Bill of Rights says it is considered a privilege, and it is. It is a privilege. It's a privilege for me to be in the program of higher education at VSU. That is a privilege. It's not a guarantee. I wasn't guaranteed to get in. So, and I think a lot of that goes back on the student and the accountability of how much effort they put into it. Everything great's not guaranteed. I think you have to put some effort into it. However, I think with the Merrill Act, the Land Grant Act of 1862, I think that opened the doors for, not guaranteed for each person, but I think it opened the doors to level playing ground to reach students to be able to have that opportunity. It's not guaranteed, but it's in closer range to where if they really wanted to go after it, they could. This was what I think this Land Grant Act envisioned. I think that's what it accomplished as well. I think with this history and with this law, it really changed the setting of higher ed. And let's see, well, I lost the name of the quote, but they said it was, I can't remember the gentleman's name, but he was a historian, and he quoted it was the most significant breakthrough during the period of the Civil War, and for higher education. So I completely agree. History is most definitely influenced by the involvement of the federal government, and it is part of our education system, whether some people like it or not. They are involved in our higher ed system. How much control they dictate to the states, that's to be foreseen. It changes, and it's political. It's highly political. So, but that's the history, and that is my opinion about how higher education is influenced.